Dragon Age the Veilguard is on its way, and it has so much to offer, and we have a lot to show you to get you hyped for the release on October 31st. In this 15-minute preview, we're taking a look at the character creator, and we're going to make ourselves a badass female elf. If you've played Dragon Age Inquisition, the races and factions won't be entirely new to you, and Veilguard can get you started with a few good presets. It's always a good idea to cycle through and try and find a preset that works for you. If it's at all possible to get something close to what you want, you're probably better off for it because there are so many options in the character creator. And down here at the bottom, you'll see that you can select your gender and your pronouns. Now, let's move on to the head shape slider, which kind of helps you get a general look before we dive into the meat of this character creator. Throughout this video, you're going to see several cuts in here as I'm building out some of these features. There's just such an abundance of choices. You probably won't want to see every minor detail as I flip these sliders up and down. The real star here is that the facial sliders seem to have a lot of variety, and this is great because the look of your character is a big deal. You'll see the player-made character in cutscenes a lot, so you'll want them to look their best. Now moving on to the nose options here, they really changed the face a lot. I think before with the preset nose, my elf still felt quite masculine actually, but she's starting to take shape. And now moving to the mouth options, they're pretty good too. They're bringing out those lips a little more and definitely helps some. But I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the mouth area. I can't tell if I just picked the wrong preset model, but it looks a little dark around the jaw. Unfortunately, during my playthrough, I didn't have a lot of time to mess with this to see if I could get it any different. But this is definitely something that I'm going to be playing a lot with whenever the game releases. Now moving on to the ears, let's check those out. I mean, they're really important for an elf, but there's really nothing out of the ordinary here, to be honest. I mean, how pointy can ears really be? But of course you want your elf to look elfy, so I'm doing the best that I can here. Now for the undergarments, this is pretty interesting. So you can choose to go topless here, which I have chosen not to show. Let's keep it semi-safe for work here. But it's cool that they give you several different options so you can choose what looks best to you. I don't know how often you're really going to see it, but at least you have the choice. And now we're going to set a cool skin tone and then move on to the body proportions. There's lots of options here. There's so many options. From height, and you can select your chest and even your glutes. You can even have a bulge slider if that's something that interests you. Body shape is also a great way to buff up your character, and we want this elf to be badass, but I don't want her to be too muscular. I want her to have some nice proportions though, so I'm going to set her somewhere in the middle. That's kind of what I was going for here. And now let's move over to the hair. There's a bunch of hairstyles here, 88 in total, from the basic to the wacky. During my character creation, I didn't really have enough time to see every single one. I mean, with 88, that in itself takes a lot of time, but I really like the variety and options here. I really like this simple ponytail look. I think that it's pretty good. I know some of the hairstyles, they don't really cover the face, but I wanted something nice and clean. I spent all this time on my character's face. I really want to be able to see it, enjoy it from all angles. And now for the color selection of the hair, I was going to go with a nice purplish, pinkish hue, and I think that actually looks really good. Then moving over to makeup, you know, there's a lot of different options here. The eyeliner options are plentiful. One thing that I had to make sure that I did was that I turned up the saturation. I mean, it's really difficult to kind of see it unless you're turning up the color and saturation. And I really wanted those colors to pop. I wanted some brightness added to the face there, and I think that worked out really well. And now I went over to the tattoo selection. There's 22 options for tattoos, and if I'm honest, I would have really liked more options for the tattoos. I would have much preferred to be able to place the exact tattoos I wanted where I wanted them, but this is still pretty good. As for the color selection, I was running out of time here, so I just had everything match the face tattoo color, and that's kind of what I went with. I'm not sure to what extent you can change all the different colors, but I think that this just looked really good. Just a nice red color, it pops, and you can actually see it in the cutscenes, and that's kind of what I was going for. Now, on to class selection. I love the videos of the specializations. They really outline the capabilities of each class and each specialization. You'll see in a following video when we jump into combat how awesome some of these abilities are to use, but just the execution of some of these skills are as pleasing to look at as they are satisfying to kill enemies with. I normally play a mage character, and that's what I wanted to start out as, but each specialization looks cool, and the Spellblade really spoke to me, despite the fact that I'm not actually going to be able to play the Spellblade, at least not initially at the beginning of the game. You don't actually get your specialization until around level 20, so I had a long way to go, but I just love the look of the Spellblade, and I wanted to give mage a try because you're going to be leveling up quite a bit on your way to getting to your specialization. So I figured I might as well get started on practicing with my class. After selecting your class, you go to the backstory and faction choice. Now, faction choice does play into the story itself, which means if you want to see everything the game has to offer, you might find yourself creating new playthroughs just to see what each new starting faction changes along the way. But there's really no telling how much it changes, but from what the developer said, it actually does change quite a few things, and you also get some new starting abilities that might help you in defeating certain enemies or having extra potions, things like that, so you're going to want to choose your starting faction wisely. And finally, the last thing that you're probably going to be doing is you're going to be selecting your playstyle. It's an interesting choice because it's basically your difficulty. And you can customize your playthrough if you want. When you customize your game, you can choose the enemy's damage, you can also choose auto-targeting. However you want to play, there's options here for you. The only mode that you can't really change, it seems, while you're actually playing the game is Nightmare mode, and it was not recommended for me to try that on my first playthrough, especially since my Dragon Age proficiency was certainly lacking at this point. But if you're a really big Dragon Age fan and you've completed Inquisition and you want to give yourself a challenge, this is a great mode to try. Or you can just maybe make a hybridized mode that ups the difficulty in the combat, or however you want to play it. That's one of the greatest things about the customization. So you have a lot of options here on how you want to play the game. And that was it for character customization in Dragon Age the Veilguard. I think it's a pretty good system, and I think that there's a lot of options here, a lot of variety. So I can't wait to see what some players come up with whenever the game launches on October 31st. Thanks for checking out the character customization on Dragon Age the Veilguard. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
You think you can come into my bar and make demands?